The 1189 Siege of Acre, a turning point in the Third Crusade. The Siege of Acre, which began in 1189, was one of the most significant military engagements of the Third Crusade, 1189 to 1192. This prolonged and intense siege, lasting nearly 2 years, involved Christian and Muslim forces locked in a battle that was both symbolically and strategically vital. Acre, a coastal city in the Levant, was of immense importance due to its strategic location and status as a major port for both the Crusader states and Islamic empires. The siege marked a crucial turning point in the Third Crusade, influencing the subsequent course of events and the eventual outcomes of the campaign. Let's explore the origins of the siege, the key figures involved, the military tactics employed by both sides, and the broader implications of the Siege of Acre for the Crusader states and the Islamic world. The prelude to the siege, the fall of Jerusalem and the call for a new crusade. The Siege of Acre must be understood within the context of the dramatic fall of Jerusalem in 1187. The Battle of Hattin, fought on July 4, 1187, saw the complete defeat of the Crusader army by the forces of Saladin, the Sultan of Egypt and Syria. The loss of Jerusalem, the holy city central to Christian religious fervor, caused a wave of shock and anger throughout Christendom. Pope Urban III is said to have died of shock upon hearing the news, and his successor, Pope Gregory VIII, issued the papal bull Audita Tremendi, calling for a new crusade to reclaim the holy sites. European monarchs, including Richard the Lionheart of England, Philip II of France, and the Holy Roman Emperor Frederick I, Barbarossa, responded to the call. Each monarch brought their own ambitions, armies, and resources to the endeavor, but they also faced internal political dynamics that influenced their participation. The fall of Jerusalem thus set the stage for the Third Crusade, and the Siege of Acre would become its first major test. The strategic importance of Acre. Acre, located on the northern coast of present-day Israel, was a major port city and one of the most prosperous cities in the Crusader Kingdom of Jerusalem. Its harbor was capable of accommodating large fleets, making it a crucial point of entry for supplies and reinforcements from Europe. Moreover, Acre was a gateway to the inland routes that led to Jerusalem and other significant territories. Control of Acre would provide the Crusaders with a strategic base for launching further campaigns in the Levant. For Saladin, holding Acre was equally important. The city not only provided a significant strategic advantage but also represented a symbol of Muslim resistance against the Crusader forces. By 1189, Acre had been under Muslim control for nearly 2 years following its capture by Saladin in 1187. The city's fortifications were strong, and it was garrisoned by a substantial force, prepared to withstand a prolonged siege. The decision to lay siege to Acre was not only a strategic military move but also a statement of intent by the Crusaders. Reclaiming Acre was crucial for their broader goal of recapturing Jerusalem. The beginning of the siege, Christian forces arrive. The Siege of Acre began on August 28, 1189, when Guy of Lusignan, the king of Jerusalem, a title disputed and weakened after his defeat at Hattin, led a force of crusaders to the city. Guy had managed to gather a modest army, consisting of knights, foot soldiers, and a fleet of ships. His decision to march on Acre was partly driven by his desire to reassert his legitimacy as king and reclaim his honor after his defeat and imprisonment by Saladin. Upon arrival, Guy's forces set up camp on the hills surrounding Acre, beginning a blockade to cut off the city from outside support. However, the Crusader forces were initially too small to completely encircle the city, allowing the defenders of Acre to maintain supply lines with Saladin's larger army, camped a few miles to the east. Saladin was quick to recognize the threat and began to mount counterattacks to break the blockade, resulting in a series of skirmishes and small battles throughout the autumn of 1189. Saladin's response, reinforcements and counterattacks. Saladin responded swiftly to the siege, understanding the significance of Acre to both his strategic position and his authority as the defender of Islam against the Crusaders. he dispatched a force to relieve the city, engaging the Crusaders in a series of counterattacks aimed at breaking their lines and providing supplies and reinforcements to the besieged garrison. These counterattacks, while fierce, were largely unsuccessful in dislodging the Crusaders, who, despite their initial disadvantages, held firm around the city's perimeter. The stalemate continued as both sides fortified their positions. For Saladin, the priority was to sustain the morale and the supplies of Acre's defenders, while avoiding a full-scale battle that might lead to unnecessary losses. The siege soon devolved into a protracted war of attrition, with each side seeking to outlast the other through blockades, limited engagements, and the maintenance of supply lines. The arrival of reinforcements, the balance of power shifts. The siege took on a new dimension in the spring of 1190, with the arrival of major Crusader reinforcements from Europe. Notably, forces under the command of Leopold V, Duke of Austria, and Philip II of France, augmented the besieging army. Richard the Lionheart, King of England, delayed his departure for several months but eventually arrived in June 1191, bringing with him a formidable contingent, including thousands of knights, men-at-arms, and naval support. Richard's arrival brought a renewed sense of purpose and energy to the Crusader camp. He was an experienced military commander, known for his courage and leadership on the battlefield. His presence not only bolstered the Crusader forces but also elevated morale, as he quickly took charge of the siege operations. Meanwhile, Philip II of France, although less inclined towards personal heroics, provided steady and vital support, contributing to the strengthening of the Crusader position. With these new arrivals, the Crusaders gained numerical superiority and began to establish a more effective blockade around Acre. This increased pressure on the defenders, as supplies within the city began to dwindle, and disease took a toll on both the besieged and the besiegers. The conditions within the city, a dire situation. Inside Acre, conditions were increasingly dire. The city's population, swollen by refugees and garrison forces, faced shortages of food, clean water, and medical supplies. Chroniclers describe scenes of starvation, disease, and death, with both combatants and non-combatants suffering terribly. The Muslim defenders, aware of the symbolic importance of holding Acre, continued to resist fiercely, launching sorties against the Crusader lines and enduring constant bombardment. Saladin, too, faced challenges. His army, camped nearby, was under strain from continuous skirmishes and the logistical difficulties of supplying a large force in the field. Despite his efforts to break the siege and relieve Acre, he found it increasingly difficult to make headway against the well-supplied and fortified Crusader encampments. This situation led to a bitter stalemate, with neither side able to secure a decisive victory. The siege intensifies, siege engines and naval blockades. As the siege dragged on into its second year, both sides employed a range of military tactics and technologies to gain the upper hand. The Crusaders constructed siege engines, including trebuchets and catapults, to batter Acre's formidable walls. Richard the Lionheart, in particular, is noted for his use of advanced siege techniques, employing engineers and craftsmen to build massive siege towers and machines capable of hurling stones and incendiary devices. The Crusaders also utilized their naval superiority to establish a blockade, cutting off Acre's access to the sea and limiting the ability of Muslim forces to resupply the city by water. This naval blockade, reinforced by Richard's fleet, proved crucial in tightening the noose around Acre and making it increasingly difficult for the defenders to hold out. Saladin, in turn, attempted to counter these moves by launching attacks against the Crusader fleets and sending reinforcements overland. However, the combined land and sea blockade gradually began to take its toll, and by the spring of 1191, the situation within Acre had become desperate. The fall of Acre, a Crusader victory. By July 1191, after nearly 2 years of brutal fighting, negotiation, and attrition, Acre's defenses finally began to crumble. Realizing the futility of continued resistance and facing the prospect of total destruction, the city's garrison agreed to surrender on July 12, 1191. The terms of surrender were harsh. The Muslim defenders were to be taken as prisoners, and a substantial ransom was to be paid to the Crusaders, including the release of Christian prisoners held by Saladin. The surrender of Acre marked a significant victory for the Crusaders and a blow to Saladin's prestige. However, the aftermath of the siege was marked by a grim episode that would further deepen the animosity between Christians and Muslims. When the agreed-upon ransom payments and prisoner exchanges were delayed, Richard the Lionheart ordered the execution of nearly 2,700 Muslim prisoners outside the walls of Acre. This act of brutality shocked even some of his contemporaries and ensured that the Third Crusade would continue with renewed ferocity. The aftermath and broader implications of the siege. The capture of Acre was a pivotal moment in the Third Crusade. It provided the Crusaders with a strategic base on the coast and a staging point for future operations against Saladin's forces. However, the victory at Acre did not lead directly to the recapture of Jerusalem. Internal divisions among the Crusader leaders, logistical challenges, and the strong resistance of Saladin's forces prevented a rapid advance on the Holy City. For Saladin, the loss of Acre was a significant setback, but it did not mark the end of his campaign. He remained a formidable opponent, capable of mustering large forces and employing effective strategies to counter the Crusader advances. The siege also demonstrated the resilience of Muslim forces and the complexity of Crusader-Muslim relations in the region, where military, political, and religious dynamics were intricately intertwined. Conclusion. The Siege of Acre, beginning in 1189 and concluding in 1191, stands as a defining moment in the Third Crusade. It exemplifies the intensity of the conflict between Christian and Muslim forces and the significance of Acre as a strategic and symbolic prize. The siege involved some of the most notable figures of the era, including Richard the Lionheart and Saladin, whose actions during this period left a lasting impact on the course of the Crusade. While the capture of Acre was a major victory for the Crusaders, it also highlighted the complexities and challenges of sustaining a prolonged campaign in a foreign land, far from home. The Siege of Acre ultimately set the stage for the later stages of the Third Crusade, shaping the historical trajectory of both the Crusader states and the Muslim world. Thanks for listening. Like and comment. And please subscribe, as that will help us get more videos out to those interested in the Middle Ages. See you next time on Medieval Chronicles 1066. Stay curious.